How do you get that elusive client budget from your interior design clients? Stick around and find out with today's guest, Hilaire Pickett-Martin. Hey kids, and welcome to Designed by Wingnut Social. I'm your host, interior decorator, Darla Powell. And on today's show, we're going to talk about client communication and transparency, and really how not to be afraid of answering and asking the tough questions with Hilaire Martin. Wingnuts, help me in welcoming Hilaire Pickett-Martin to the show. Hey there, Hilaire Martin. Thanks for joining us on the show. How the hell are you?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm terrific and so thrilled to have you here. Today we're talking about a subject that we haven't talked about in a while. We're talking about client communication, pricing, and transparency, all kinds of goodies. But before we dive into our conversation, just tell the audience really briefly who you are and what you do, and we'll get going.
I am Hilaire Martin. I work with my mother, who is an interior designer. She's been in business for over 40 years. She started the business in 1979, and I quite literally grew up in the business. I joined her professionally in '08 and haven't looked back since. It's been
Nice.
a great ride so far. So I've been with her, 14 years going on maybe. And I do all the operations for her. So my job title, it varies from day to day. I mean, I might be working with a lot of vendors. Some days I'm taking out the trash, ordering office supplies, getting the mail, doing everything.
I love it. It reminds me, as we're talking, I'm reminded of Martha O'Hara Interiors with, I don't know if you're familiar with Kate O'Hara and
I am.
Martha,
I know
mother-daughter
them.
team. And she's, yeah, right. Yeah, Kate is a good friend of mine. I have yet to meet Martha in person yet. I've been invited, but I haven't done it yet because of COVID and everything. But that's what reminds me. So you're the de facto COO.
Yes, the unofficial,
right? Yeah.
yes. Or just mom's right-hand woman.
So you're familiar. You see all the nitty gritty from all of your designers and the business issues. I'm sure that you put out a lot of fires every day. And today's topic on communication with clients, I think designers and decorators listening, if we can nail this topic, can save them a lot of fire extinguisher refills.
Yeah.
Right. So let's get into communication with clients and how important that is. And then the second part of this will be the transparency part. I'm really curious to hear your take and how your firm handles this. But let's talk about setting up those expectations in the beginning to start with client communication. And in the green room, we were chatting that I had some angina about setting up expectations when I was doing a full-time interior design, because I just kind of wanted to spray and pray, right? And everything's going to go great. I don't want any pushback at the beginning. I don't want to lose the job. So talk to us a little bit about that, and then we'll dive in.
As far as transparency goes, I mean, I think it starts at that first meeting with the client. My mother always talks about really listening. And I think that is very key up front. Understanding the client's challenges or way in which, their home is not functional for them, and they want to improve certain aspects. So I think it starts out at the very first initial meeting. And then just really, really understanding what it is they ultimately want. Because in design, it's very personal. So every project's going to be different. So if you are very clear in just hearing what they want and what they ultimately want to be, for their home, I think that is the first step.
So how are we handling ongoing communication once a client has hired us and signed with us and setting up those expectations? So just out of curiosity, how does Design Line Signature handle that?
Well, supply chains are a part of that equation too, but
yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
We set expectations when we're even in the design presentation. So we might show them design choices that are have big lead times, and we articulate that. Going back to that initial meeting, we also try and understand their challenges, but also too, like their budget, their time frame, and their budget, even if it's a range. Or even if the time frame's like, next year, okay, great. Or if it's, 6 weeks from now, well, we're just really authentic in our conversation to them and just saying like, look, this is what we can do in 6 weeks. This is what we can't do. And so we just are clear with that.
Let me pull you back just a second here, because you said the B word.
What? Budget?
You said budget. And that is one of the biggest pain points for interior designers, architects, in getting a budget range from interior design clients. And I know that a lot of people, especially newer designers, will just be, okay, this is our rate and we're just going to go design, because they're afraid to get a budget from them, or they're afraid, and they do the presentation, they're like, Mr. and Mrs. Client, it's gonna be $100,000. And they're like, oh my God, my budget is, $15,000 or $20,000, because they didn't want to say in the beginning. So when you're having the client communication, the first meetings, how are you getting, give us some tips or techniques for pulling those teeth and getting that budget from a client?
Yeah, that's a great thought. And, there's several different approaches to that. I think one is really, if clients do have maybe a number, but they're afraid to share it with the designer, or for whatever reason, just don't want to reveal it. We even say just a budget range. Give us a high, give us a low. Maybe clients want to have some investment pieces. For example, like they want to spend, if they want to look at a room, let's say the living room, for example, and they know they have, I don't know, $20,000 to spend. Okay, well, where do you want to spend money on your investment pieces? So that's another approach, is identifying pieces within the space that you're willing to spend money on. Maybe, I don't know, side tables are not that important. You want them to look great and functional, obviously be able to put, a coffee mug or a book on, but you can do lower priced items there. So budget range, you could do by value engineering on specific pieces, and where do they want to spend their money on.
For the uninitiated, what is value engineering?
Value engineering is our fancy word of saying like working within a budget, or value engineer. So you say a sofa's $5,000, you need to value engineer it, meaning like bring it down a little bit. There's always, what is it? 3 things you can have. You can have price, function, or quality. Those are the 3 things, but you can't always have 3 at the same time. So
Right.
You might have to sacrifice one of those. So if you value engineer the price, well, you may not have the best quality, or you might still have the function, so it kind of, you got to pick.
I see. Okay. Okay. So since we're talking about budget and we're talking about pricing, and this might be too personal, let me know if you don't want to share it, but
Sure.
How are you guys pricing? Are you pricing hourly? Are you doing a flat rate?
We have new construction clients, we have renovation clients, remodeling clients, and we also have clients who come to us for furnishings. So there is a breadth of diversity as far as scope of project goes. When we do new construction, it is fee-based, and then we do a combination of hourly for renovations, and then obviously percent of sale for furnitures.
So how are you communicating those boundaries and expectations with clients? Let's start with, let's start with the flat fee, because one of the biggest issues with a flat fee, especially for newer designers who don't have the experience to, put that situation together, is scope creep. So how are we communicating with clients for a flat fee that, hey, there's not going to be any scope creep, and if there is, it's going to be cha-chingage?
We articulate how we are with them throughout every step of the process, and we let them know what they will receive as a result of the fee. So it's, here's the fee, and here's what we will do through those 18 months through the new construction process. So we are very upfront as far as communicating to the client what they will receive as a result of the fee.
And what do your touch points look like? Do you have like systems and procedures for X client gets this many touch points this often during a project? Does that change?
As it relates to new construction, we're always doing reoccurring meetings with clients, and sometimes that could ebb and flow with the builder. It could ebb and flow with, the architect, or going to showrooms to meet and find resources, tile selections, plumbing. So we are, as far as a touch point goes, we are pretty frequent touch point. I mean, it's a weekly or every other week. Again, setting those expectations up front with the client of,
Right.
How often can you meet if it relates to new construction? How often can you meet? Are there any scheduling, challenges that we need to be aware of, because everybody has a role. The designer has a role, the client has a role, the builder or any part of the construction process or even remodeling. And so we really rely on that team effort approach there.
Hey, if you're a longtime listener of Design by Wingnut Social, you probably have heard me talk about our amazing social media marketing strategy for interior designers and architects and how really, really good it is. I mean, 5-star reviews across the board, but just don't take my word for it. Listen to Stacy Martin of The Fresh Maker.
Before using Wingnut Social, I was lost and crying in a dark corner of the internet. I had no idea how to really run my social media in a way that attracted those dream clients I was looking for and really grew my social media following. So as a longtime listener of the Wingnut Social podcast, naturally I reached out to Darla Powell and her awesome team for help. And help they did. It was an amazing experience. I received a step-by-step tutorial on how to increase engagement, how to increase likes, and ultimately how to capture those dream clients and those dream projects I was really looking for. And the whole process just exceeded my expectations. I could not recommend Wingnut Social enough. They're so fun to work with. They really know what they're doing. And I am so glad I turned to them for help with my social media marketing. Wingnut Social, we love you.
Thank you, Stacy Martin. We love you too. And we love to see the results that you're achieving using the Wingnut Social strategy. Thank you so much. I heard a really great tip, and we started utilizing this at Darla Powell Interiors when I was doing that, is that every Friday, regardless of if there's been any progress on the design or anything happening, we update them. We just send an email, hey, Mr. Client, we are still, doing this, that for your project. This is what's happening. This is the update at minimum. Is that something that you guys do as well? Even if it's like, the project, nothing really crazy has happened in a while?
Because as it relates to new construction or even any project or renovation, clients know they can always reach us. They can always call us for anything. We don't have like a specific day that we reach out to every client, like you were mentioning, Darla, but we do, as it relates to furnishings, I'm going through expediting, I'm looking at orders. And I'm always, in contact with clients in sort of the update of their project. So it's a personal approach. We don't have like a set procedure, if you will, but it's just the personal communication along the way.
All right, here's the $1 million question. What do you say to those clients who, when you're doing the consultation or you're doing the proposal, they're like, hey, are you passing along your discounts for furnishings or such like that? What is the golden answer there?
We're very upfront with how we price and our markup in our contracts. And so clients know that upfront. So typically when we're presenting, they don't have those questions. They really trust the design process, and we outline everything about our markup and how we work in the contract. And so they know that right away.
I love that. So when you're doing the consultation, is someone actually sitting down and going over that and saying, here's how we work. This is part of the design fee? Because some designers have like a little angina about charging for design fees and then charging a markup for furnishings. What would you tell that designer?
That's a great question. We don't do necessarily design fees and markup together. Like if you are if we are procuring the furniture, we don't do hourly fees on top of that. We do hourly like in renovations or in construction process. Again, it depends on the type of project and what is needed. So like if we're redoing a master bath remodel, for example, we're going to do hourly. Now, if we have a client who comes to us and says, hey, we need our whole living room redone, our master bathroom, or not bathroom, master bedroom furnishings, we're going to go, obviously, markup and percent of sales. So
you wouldn't charge for the hours that it would take to procure those or to go to market or find those things or search on the internet or what have you. You're just making the markup on that furnishings, which is Are you charging retail for that, or at least, a little bit below retail? How does your markup
A
work?
little
What
bit
would you
below
recommend?
retail, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's what I was doing as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of designers are doing that. Okay. So the hours spent procuring the furnishings, are you finding that the markup is more than covering that to make up for we're not charging design time for sourcing?
Correct.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, and that's working for you because you guys are doing volume and all that as well. So you're doing residential and commercial, or design build, or?
We do 98% residential.
Okay. I was just
Yeah.
double checking. That's what I thought, but I was just double checking there. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about, we touched on it a smidge, but about scope creep, right? So you've been incredibly communicative with your clients. They know what to expect. I'm guessing they're not giving you text messages at midnight and you're not responding to those, right? So what is your process, and how would you respond to a client who said, this is great, but can we just add this, the little reading nook over here, to your flat rate situation? What would you tell them?
Well, flat rate is really only like new construction.
So flat rate is only for new construction. So design is hourly.
So if it's procured through us, it is percent of sale. If, like, let's say it's remodeling, that is hourly.
Do they have the option of procuring it through another avenue?
I mean, they could, but then when we would charge them hourly for our time, that's pretty
nice.
Yeah,
okay.
like explicit
and that's in
our
contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we do the design and they decide to not move forward, then they have to bill
Smart.
for the hourly.
All right. I love it. Okay. Hilaire, is there anything that I've forgotten to ask you with regards to communications or, transparency with clients that you think that the designers need to hear before we get into the What Up Wingnut round?
I mean, I think, we touched on the first part of the process, but I think it's also very important to touch on the back end of the process, meaning like the point at which, okay, so you've done procurement of furniture, it's on purchase order, and then the final couple of steps are very important. I mean, that's the part sometimes of why we do what we do, is to see the end result. And so communication about delivery, there's been a huge weight and pressure upon expediting the past, year and a half, 2 years. And so I'm very upfront with clients. I let them know, as of right now, this is where your furniture stands. It could change, it could improve, it could also back up as far as timing goes. And so people just understand. I mean, I think that's everybody, I think coming out of COVID, everybody was very aware. We're all human, and so everybody is aware of supply chain issues and what our industry is dealing with right now. And so there's that. And then there's also installation. We are on every install. We are there being sure things come off the truck and they are awesome. They're in great condition. If they're not, we inform the client. We, work towards either repair process or returning or working with vendors to get it right. And then we communicate with clients at the end, obviously with the final balance and their invoice. So I think there's that first process of understanding really well at the beginning their design and their ultimate goals that they want for their home, and then seeing that through the entire process, to me, is a part of that transparency for clients and the way we work.
How much pain and money and angina does your systems and processes for communicating with clients and setting up those expectations at the very beginning save you in the long run?
I think it saves a lot because they just know that process. I mean, we even articulate it on our website very well. Here are the steps that we as a firm go through. And depending on your project, this is what it looks like. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's, just for conversation to help continuity to get the best end result.
Yeah, I think some designers might be apologetic a little bit, to push that this is the expectations, this is the price, this is the way we work. It's a business. It's not a hobby to make money. We want to make money. It's not a hobby. So I think that is super important. Hilaire, thank you so much for giving us your insights on how you do that with your firm as a default COO of Design Line Signature. But now I have to ask you, are you ready for the What Up Wingnut round?
I'll be ready. Yep.
What would the hashtag on your tombstone be?
I lived well.
Oh, I love it. You're stuck on a deserted island, but you can have your one favorite food forever. What is it?
Troy's baked potatoes.
Oh, ooh, very good one. And there's potassium and vitamin C, a very good survival choice as well. I applaud.
Thanks.
Last but not least, please recommend a book that has had a profound effect on you, either personally or professionally.
Right now, I am still in the process of finishing up her book, but I actually have it right here. It's called Feeding the Soul, and it's by a lady named Tabitha Brown. And I actually follow her on Instagram, but she is a unapologetic, beautifully well-written book, and she has a lot of great personality. So it's served me well personally and also professionally.
Hilaire, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell the audience where they can go to find out more about you and Design Line Signature.
They can go to designlinesignature.com, and they can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Design Line Signature.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it for this Wingnut Wednesdays interview episode. Be sure to follow us on Designed by Wingnut Social over there on YouTube and give us a like and a subscribe. Tell your friends what the hell. Tell your enemies. And remember, until next week, to get out there, get uncomfortable, and be great. I just choked
geez.
myself. Hold on. Edit. Hilaire, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell the audience where they can go to find out more about you and blooper. How do you get a budget from your interior design clients, and what do you say to them when they say, "Hey, are you going to pass along your discount?" Find out. Stick around on your butt. But before we get into that, thank you so much for joining us. I wanted to I had no idea what I wanted to do. None. Zero clue what I wanted to do. Okay, let me see if I can do this. Hilaire Pickett... Can't do it.